Chapter 19. Henrietta's Diary. I remember him. Of course I do. I remember your father when he was an old man. I remember him sitting on a white porch in a faded blue wicker rocking chair, facing west in the direction of Wales. Edwin Waller spoke so suddenly that I felt almost frightened. I just wasn't prepared for it, I suppose. Even when I did hear it, part of me was refusing to process the information. I must have been in a state of shock, and at the same time, I was resentful that anyone else should have any information about my own father to which I was not privy. I was very young, of course, he continued. I can only just remember it. My mother had taken me visiting and left me on a porch with this old man. He had a Panama hat and a white shirt. I do remember that clearly. His skin was wrinkled around his eyes and he sort of stared into space. Of course, it is perfectly clear to me now that he could hardly see at all. But then I couldn't be expected to figure it all out, could I? I didn't know what to say. Some sort of response seemed to be called for, so I shook my head at Edwin Waller as we walked backwards towards Place Wenlas together. You're older than I thought then, I remember saying as the rain stopped and the sun began to emerge from behind a dark bank of clouds. If you can remember my father that clearly, you can't be much younger than I. Rain dropped from the rhododendron bushes that seemed to threaten to close in upon the drive that afternoon. I felt a curious sense of disappointment, and I still feel some of it now, though it is some days since I heard the news. It is almost as if I have lost something. I tried to discipline myself out of it, and I began to increase the pace. Edwin Waller had no difficulty in matching me. He's almost as fit as I am. That was in North Carolina, I heard myself saying. I suppose I had to say something, didn't I? But all the time, I was feeling an acute sense of disappointment that I was determined not to show. If my father had been alive, then why hadn't I heard about it before? Why hadn't I heard from him? Edwin Waller nodded. Then he turned to me and said, "In Gainsborough. But I think you already know that, don't you?" I did, of course. I wasn't very factual when I thought about it, I'm afraid. I knew it was a port by the sea. My father could never have borne it otherwise. In my imagination, I'd always made it into a perfect place. White houses with dark green shutters clustered around a little harbour. Small boats bobbed on the waiting tide. To me, even the gulls sounded different. Gainsborough. It must have been perfect, because why else would my father have left us? It's on the Sound, I remember him saying, quite matter-of-factly. It's quite historical. I was brought up in the town next door. My father was the cousin of your father's housekeeper. We used to visit every few weeks. We were almost coming to the end of the driveway, and I could see the house standing before us, shining as it always does after the rain. "I don't want anyone else to hear this," I said as we came up to the front door. "Not even Sylvia." She already knows. I stopped for a moment, almost stunned. "Why else do you think she's been so supportive of my work?" he said. I opened the door, and after making sure there was no one else in the hallway, I took off my coat and I tried to shake off the wet onto the mat before placing the coat on the hall stand. I turned to Edwin Waller and noticed he was shivering. "You'd better get it into some dry clothes at once," I said. But he stood there, dripping, like some forlorn animal. I didn't like it. His eyes were too soft. Sylvia does like my work, he said. Let's get this straight, I said, once and for all. This is not about poetry. This is not about sensibility. It's about an inheritance. The fact that you remember my father, if you do, doesn't necessarily make things any better.